Well, you're back again, and I'm back too. Let's do it, man. Podcast number 7, the most boring podcast in town. Scott's Boring Life, welcome to it. Thanks for being part of my crew. I guess you are if you're here. What are we going to talk about today? Well, we'll talk about a few things going on in my life. Probably most importantly is the fence. I'm smoking too many goddamn cigars. I smoke cigars, not like the little hipster ones. I smoke big Winston Churchill crime boss cigars, which is ridiculous. I don't just have them for photos to look cool. I'm a jackass standing outside in the rain in the middle of the night in my slippers, smoking a big fucking cigar that takes 2 hours to smoke. It's ridiculous. It has to stop. We'll talk about that and more. Most importantly, first guest on Scott's Boring Life is this episode. Patrick Byrne was kind enough to come by. He plays the sax for us. We jam. It's all recorded. It's all here. Let's do it. So most importantly, the fence. I think it's about 1,000 feet. I don't know. I didn't measure it. Probably more than that. But it is beginning to look like a fence. The deer can't come in that side of the property anyway, so that feels good. The dog can't leave either. It's taken a lot of my time, but you know, it's funny. A simple thing like building a fence, and you feel pretty good when you're done. You get that visual gratification. As you might know, I can be guilty of having pretty lofty dreams. Pretty lofty goals. I try to kind of be at the top end of my ability, which quite frankly isn't that high. But I aim up there. But lately, a fence has been what I've been all about. When I'm going to sleep, I'm thinking about the fence. I wake up and I get dressed because thinking, well, what do you wear whenever you're building a fence? My whole life, all my thoughts. And now, you know, the shitty part of ripping the old fence down, that was no fun, but now it looks like a fence, and I'm going to shut up about it soon, but it's kind of like, you ever seen that movie with, it's called Bruce Almighty, and it's a comedy. Morgan Freeman is God, and the Ace Ventura guy, whatever, I can't remember, I forget his name. You're shouting his name right now. Good. Yeah, that guy. Anyway, there's a scene where it's like the midpoint of the movie, and Jim Carrey is at like the low point. He's devastated. And happy Morgan Freeman is God, but he's like a janitor, and he's dressed in white. This janitor dressed in white, and they're mopping. And he says, "Hey, Ace Ventura guy, mop this big fucking floor with me." It's like this like God heaven floor. It's white and it's kind of dirty, but it goes forever. And he's like, "Oh," and leaning on his mop. He's like, "No, let's mop the floor." So you start mopping the fucking floor, and just kind of fades to black, comes back, and each time in the montage, he gets a little happier, and at the end, Ace Ventura guy just kind of leans on his mop, completely satisfied, and I think that's the turning point in the movie. He feels good. My point is, you know, he looks at what he did is just mopping a floor, but whenever you're done and you can look at it and see it, it feels good. And sometimes I wonder if you get these huge successes in life, if it's any better than the fence or that floor. I don't know. I don't think it is. I think you have a limit to how happy you can be. I heard a theory once that you have like this base happiness and you always kind of gravitate back to it. Something devastating happens in your life, you go low. And I hope that's not happening right now for you. But if it is, keep on listening, because there's something good in this. But, you know, if you're at a super high, if you win the lottery or whatever, it doesn't matter. You always go back to whatever that base happiness is. And I think that's true. And so what the fuck is the point? I don't know. What's the point of all of this? There's none. There's no point to it. Well, I'll stop talking about the fence, but because it's basically done now, we can move on. It's like 3,000 feet long. It's big. We have a guest today. This is a big episode for me. It's the first guest I've ever had on Scott's Boring Life, and he wasn't a boring guest at all. I guess he didn't get the memo. He showed up with his saxophone, and as soon as he walked in the door, he took a saxophone out of the case And I was ready. I had the mics all set up. I put my guitar on, and we broke out into the song. I mean, we quickly said hello. He started talking. I said, no, wait. We'll save it for the podcast. Let's just jam. And we did. We played a song that we hadn't played in a year. He's the guy that plays the sax on my album called Only Mostly Dead. The song called Shut the Door, Have a Seat. He plays the sax on that. And I mentioned this before, but the highlight of the studio, the highlight for me of the album was him coming to my studio and playing the sax. It was just awesome. And I kind of had a chance to relive it. In fact, I got to jam with him. We played it live. And he hadn't played the song in a year since that day. He's just that kind of guy. He can do that. And I've never played it live with him. When he came, he played, in a recording situation. So it was cool, man. I got to jam with a sax player. So when you hear the song, I'm going to play it. That's how we're going to do this. I'm going to talk a little bit. And then we're going to cut to when he showed up and we jam out the song. And literally, he sits down and talks into the mic that he was just moments ago playing a saxophone into. And I'm talking into the mic that I was just singing into. I did a quick little edit, still the bumps and the moving of the chairs and stuff. But it was literally that fast. He came in, we jammed the song, we spoke briefly, and it ends with he gets an emergency call because he's a firefighter, and he leaves. How fucking cool is that? Actually, I felt guilty because he got an emergency call and he said, I gotta go. And I said, well, this is great. What a great way to end a podcast. What am I, some kind of asshole? Like somebody's house is on fire. And I was saying, this is great because it added some excitement to my podcast. So I regretted that. But when you're in the moment, you say shit. So I'm not going to dwell on that. But I regretted that after. My first interview. It was fun. Patrick Byrne, thank you very much. And we're going to get to that jam and interview shortly. We talk about the last few days. It's been interesting. The fence is kind of, I said, I promise I won't go on about the fence anymore, but landscaping. I want to get a tractor. Why the fuck do I want a tractor? But I'm obsessed with it. Kind of like the little kid that used to want a dirt bike. That part of me is alive again. And now it's not a dirt bike. I want a tractor. Like one of those small ones with a front end loader and a backhoe. And I want to fuck with my yard. I see a little hill. I want to level it and plant grass on it. I look over there and I see these little imperfections. And I think with this tractor, my God, it's a canvas. It's a blank canvas. And I can just, and why? Why am I doing this? But I want to. It's like this intuition, like a bird migrating south. Like why do they just know? But for some reason I have this urge to get a tractor and fuck with my yard for no good reason. It's deep, like a deep feeling wanting to do this. Ridiculous, but it's there, man. I want to smoke cigars, put on a cowboy hat and a Hawaiian shirt, and play with a backhoe. Fucking why? I don't know. But it's deep, man. Like, I really want to do it. And I got to thinking about it, and we're not going to get too deep here, I promise, but I think it's human nature. Like, I read the book Origin by Dan Brown. Now all you fucking intellectuals and book snobs are like, oh, Dan Brown. Oh, he's a shit writer. He just knows how to write a book or something, however. He's a fucking good writer, man. For example, Origin, massive book. Big, heavy book. And you're thinking, this is a big chunk of my life. I don't know if I want to do this, but I'll read the prologue. Prologues are fun, right? Anyone could read a prologue. So I did. I read the prologue. And it had to be a good fucking prologue if it's going to be like, I'm going to read a 2,000-page book here. And man, it was good. Good fucking prologue. If you don't read the book, at least read the prologue. Anyway, the whole premise of that book, it's a very Dan Brown thing. He kind of dangles this thing, and you have to read most of the book to get to it. And this one, what he's dangling is, what's the meaning of life? All right, God, rolled their eyes, but that's what it was. And I'm going to tell you what he said it was. So if you, it's a spoiler alert, so you can just skip ahead if you don't want to know. It's stupid, but what it was is it was kind of two parts. One was meaning life was to spread energy, and part two of it was Chaos is bad, order is good. So we're just going to dismiss the energy thing, which is kind of a fun one, but it's a little too deep for Scott's boring life. We're going to talk briefly about chaos is bad, order is good. And I think it's true. Like, you look at the land in your yard and you just, that hill, that little knoll, those rocks over there. I'm going to go pick rocks, and put them in a pile over there, and everything has to be in order. Man, I think Dan Brown might have been onto something there. I think that's a little bit of human nature. I don't know. Well, anyway, moving on. What else did I do? I went to, I don't know if it's a seminar. What do you call it? There was somebody did a talk. It was another one of those sailing things. Somebody that sailed around the world. And this guy at the local, anyway, I went to this talk. And it was interesting. He did it in the 80s, I think, and he had this slideshow. There are all these pictures of him alone doing it in the 80s. What it was a solo trip. He's not allowed to touch land all the way around the world. He left from here, Victoria, all the way around the world. So the line was like from Victoria down, below Cape Horn, so below South America, straight across, then whoop, right back up. Like below New Zealand, so it would just look like a U right back home. It took him 9 months. It was interesting. He did it with, I think he had $100 because it could have been zero. What do you need money for once you start sailing away? It was interesting. These talks are making me question if this is something I am interested in. Really, I'll tell you this much: if I am interested in this kind of adventure sailing thing, if I get there, it would be more of, I would brag about how long it took me to get around the world. If there's an award for the slowest circumnavigation, that is what I would pursue. Yeah. Anyway, I think this is a good time to look at the Facebook feed, which is a tradition. We're going to keep it up. We're not going to dwell on anything, but what we're going to do is just read the first few that come up and see what it is. Maybe it's interesting, maybe it's not. And actually, I got a few emails today to look at, which is fun. That's cool. Starting to feel like a real thing. The sponsored stuff. What? You gotta stay true. It's something from the New Yorker. I don't know, whatever. Who cares about that? Another sponsored thing from Ford. Are you kidding? That's no fun. I'm in a group called Indie Rock, and what is it? It's saying Band of Susans, and this person really likes that. I don't know who that person is. You're part of these groups like this. I don't know why I did that, but now it's how maybe I'll discover a band or something one day. There's a boat for. You know what? This is boring. Why do we even look at Facebook? Here's something. Skylar Seal. Are you hyphening your name now, Skylar? He likes something. He likes Groove 3 Incorporated. So Skylar liked this digital mixing analog. I'm going to move on. Okay, we did the Facebook thing. Sometimes it entices something to talk about. Sometimes it doesn't. Skylar, you're a good man. I know you. But I think we'll just stop right there. He's another home recording guy. And that's a cool thing. Anytime I meet somebody who's into that. I got a buddy named Matt Williamson who gave me a nice message. Matt, thanks for that. He's a good dude. When you meet somebody just briefly, and back in the restaurant days, I met Matt. And he came in and we're like, we're going to be bros. He knew right away. And he's a good man. Matt Williamson. Yeah, good human being. All right, we're going to push on. We're going to get to the interview shortly. It's going to be tough from transitioning to this. How the song starts is I just asked him to kind of, freestyle a little bit, and I was just jump in. And then you're going to hear backing tracks. So what is that? It's the drum and bass. And so we had our headphones on. He just kind of freestyled a bit. And then I jumped in, and then I clicked on the backing tracks. And then once the backing tracks were pumping, it went well. So you've been listening. It doesn't sound, it's live, And it took me a few verses to find it, but it was honest. It was what happened. and I'm going to show you what happened. It was cool. I think what's going to happen here with Scott's Boring Podcast is I think it's going to turn into buddies, people I meet, coming to my studio. We jam, we talk. That, I think, is what will happen. I have my next guest lined up for Wednesday. For me, I don't know what that is for you. Maybe Thursday, shortly after Wednesday. Give me some time to upload and to clean it up a bit. But Dave Latinga, local dude, cool guy who spent his 20s and I think his 30s as a musician, touring around in a cover rock band. And it sounds like a really cool life. We're going to talk music. He as well was on the album. The opening track had this rock and vocal section. So maybe he'll come. We'll jam that song and have a talk. Whatever happens, it happens Wednesday, and I'm looking forward to it. I got an email here. It's kind of a cool one. Bear with me, because I don't know who it's from. So that's cool. You know, somebody outside of my direct support network. You know what I mean? And Carlton the Doorman. Oh, it's okay that I said that. That's pretty cryptic, so I think it's okay. If you don't want me to mention your name, and if you email, just tell me and I won't. And it says, just wondering if Bruce is still living in Victoria area, or maybe Souk. And there's a YouTube link. There'd be an awesome interview, they say. So there's a link, and Bruce Murdoch. And I didn't know who it was. Clicked on it. I get it. I haven't looked further other than just listening to the YouTube, but I might do that. Carlton the Doorman, thank you for that message. That's awesome. And I got a bunch of nice messages through Facebook and Instagram, and that's pretty awesome. All right. I've really been rambling here. First interview went great. It was short and sweet. It's kind of like the bullet points of Patrick's life. It was quick. And I'm happy with it. And was a great interviewer? No. But it was my first one. I don't look at it like an interview. It's a conversation. We had a conversation with Patrick Byrne. It started with a little jam. So if you're not in the mood to hear a song, just skip the next 4 or 5 minutes, and you're going to be right into the conversation with me and Patrick, the famous saxophone player who lives on Saltspring Island. So, I'm glad you're here. ScottMcKenzie323@gmail.com if you want to get in touch. If you're on social media, add me. I'll fucking add anybody. What do I care? What am I, the Pope? Add me. I'll accept. Or email's cool too, man. But I want to hear from you. If you message me, we're going to talk about your message on the podcast here. Maybe you want to be interviewed. Or, I don't like the word interviewed. You want to come by and have a conversation. You want to come by and jam. Awesome. You got to let me know, man. But this is the jam and the conversation I had with Patrick Byrne. And it starts with a pretty awesome sax intro. And I'm going to play it out. And I appreciate you're here. The song is called Shut the Door. Have a seat. Skin soft, coming to an end. Count down to the last time you'll ever see this town. I'm bound to no one and I'm running from here like hell. Shut the door, have a seat. It's time we finally speak about who you are and who I am and how it's time for this to end. Change inside, electrified. Promise this time I won't give in. I knew it would be hard to do this at two of you. I'm like rubber and you're like glue. Make a move. Count down to the last time you'll ever see me. This town. I'm bound to no one and I'm running from here like hell. Have a seat, have a final drink. Raise your glass to all the times we gave it all that we had. You take your time, you hypnotize. Try to ignore the thoughts dancing in my mind. Trying to ignore all the thoughts dancing in my mind. Try so hard, but I give it attitude. You've been thinking the same. Well, I'm confused. To tell you the truth, it hurts all the same. This no-till motel is starting to change. Count down to the last time you'll ever see this town. I'm bound to no one and I'm bound to tease me like hell. Have a seat, time to find a sleep. Now it's time for this to end. I'll change inside, electrified. Promise this time I won't give in to you. Alright. It's kind of a cool way to start a podcast.
Yeah, I agree.
Alright.
That's good.
Let's try this out. How do you pronounce your last name, first of all?
Byrne. Like fire, yeah, Byrne.
Okay. Scottish?
Irish.
Irish.
So it's B-Y-R-N-E. So that's Irish. Scottish would be B-U-R-N.
Okay. On your father's side?
Father's side, yeah. Mother's English.
Okay.
Hopkins.
Hopkins, that's a good British name.
Yeah, it is.
You, Patrick Byrne, are a good Canadian man.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Newfoundland.
Oh, my dear Lord.
Yeah.
I knew it. Now, so you come to Saltspring. I have a thing about Newfies, a theory that you somehow can find each other anywhere you are.
Yeah, it's true. It's like all Newfies are some kind of a magnet, and they suck each other together wherever they are in the world. It's true.
Like, well, on Saltspring, we found any others?
Yeah, actually, 2 guys who were working on doing some work on that those cell phone towers up on Mount Bruce, and we were playing a gig, and well, they walked in, and they were 3 sheets to the wind, and they walked up during the break and said, "Are you a maritimer?" And I was like, "How'd you know?" "Oh, we can always tell, boy. Have a drink." And well, the rest was kind of a bit hazy.
Wait a minute, a cell phone tower?
Yeah.
I thought we didn't do that.
Well, we have something for sure. Those towers up on Mount Bruce. Otherwise, we'd have no signal at all.
There's so much shit on Saltspring. I don't know if it's true or not. And then I find myself repeating it. I'm like, wait, am I repeating something that's... Where am I? Like, for example, I thought that we didn't have any cell phone towers.
No, I believe that was. I could be wrong. There's some towers up on Mount Bruce there.
I understand.
And that's where the guys paraglide from, I guess.
I've seen that.
Yeah, it was pretty amazing. Yeah, last fire practice, we're putting like props out, car fire, full blaze, the propane tank and everything, and they're coming down. I shot some pictures of them drifting down towards the smoke. Like, they were way high up, but it was pretty cool. So.
They make you nervous when they're getting a bit close?
They're not that close.
Yeah,
it just seems. Yeah, they're half a kilometer away, but.
I saw one guy take off. It didn't look graceful.
Yeah,
it looked like a 50-50 chance he would survive that thing.
Yeah,
it's the thing where he has like the big propeller on his back.
No, it's a parachute kind of.
Oh, the other way around.
Yeah. Okay. So they run and they launch.
Off the mountain.
Yeah, off the mountain, and then the wind catches the sail, I guess is what they call it, and it just pulls up.
Yeah.
And away they go, and they find thermals, and then they rise up with the thermal currents, air currents.
The nerve you have to have.
Yeah, nerve and skill, actually. Skill's really important, like being able to read wind current and know what the conditions are.
Like that first jump?
Yeah, I'm not sure it's for me.
No, me neither. More of a saxophone player.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, that's a jump sometimes.
I know very little about you, but what I do know is that at one point you lived in Indonesia, and it was your saxophone playing that brought you there. Because how I met you is 5 years ago. I owned a restaurant, and I was making noodles for people, a noodle bar, a lunch joint, and you get to know people a little bit. And you were somebody who come in time to time. We'd have these little micro conversations.
That's right, yeah.
And then, so like 5 years ago, I'm remembering a micro conversation about Indonesia, and somehow I'm putting the saxophone into that somehow. Is there any truth?
Yeah, kind of. Yeah, I was in Asia. I have spent some time in Indonesia and played there, but I lived in Taiwan.
Oh, Taiwan.
So I was playing saxophone for a living there, and also working like towards the end, the last 2.5 years, working for a saxophone manufacturing company. So what I did there, basically, I'd come into work whenever I wanted.
Yeah.
And they made me quality control manager, and I basically played horns all day. Like,
that sounds so cool.
Yeah, it was totally awesome. And then they'd send me to trade shows. So I go to Shanghai or to Beijing or Guangzhou, and to the UK also to do customer relations stuff. And so basically somebody who loves to play, and I got to play all day long, and I play tunes on each horn. And then what I started to do is on the odd horn, I'd write a little note, like, and stick it somewhere where they'd maybe start playing, and it would be, something's not right here. And they'd find a little note folded up in one of the keys.
Oh, cool.
And they'd unroll it, and it would say, "Oh, this is a pretty sweet horn. I played some Miles Davis on this one, and
very cool.
Enjoy your instrument." Or if it was Christmas time, "Hey, Merry Christmas."
Life's all about surprises.
Yeah. Well, it was also a way to, truth be told, you play every day like that, and it is pretty awesome. But there are the days, like in any job, where you're kind of looking for things to excite you. So
life is nuts. We're never happy.
Yeah. No.
Get like a saxophone guy in a saxophone job where he plays saxophones every day, and eventually he's like, nah.
Well, that's just it. In excess of anything good is not good, right?
Yeah. So, no, it's true. Yeah. Well, that's human nature. Yeah. We always find something.
So it was awesome. I loved the job overall.
Yeah. Playing saxophone. And how are the beaches in Taiwan?
Southern Taiwan and eastern Taiwan, pretty amazing, actually. Like, it was called Formosa before, which you're probably aware of, and means beautiful island in Portuguese, and that's what it is. Like, heavily industrialized on the west coast, but then a high mountain range, like peaks over 3,000, 4,000 feet and higher. 3,000 meters, I think, is the highest one. Wow. Jade Mountain, and all jungle, and then you're living in like that idyllic Chinese painting where you go up the mountains, all cloud, and then you're above it. Like, it's amazing. And then down to the East Coast, all cliffs and beach, mostly rock beach. But yeah.
That's where you met your wife?
Yeah, I met her in Taichung, which is where I lived.
Were you playing saxophone at the local jazz club? And
at various clubs. There wasn't really a jazz club at all. Like the first kind of jazz place was the place that I opened, and it was just jazz once a week.
You opened a club there?
I did, yeah. I had a club for a little over 3 years with a partner, Roger Smith, Australian guy from Brisbane.
Cool.
And some silent Taiwanese partners, Ariel and Brian. And we did jazz on Wednesdays, my band, Thursday open mic, Friday, Saturday bands, booked bands from everywhere.
That sounds like fun.
Yeah, it was awesome. And ironically, it was called Grooveyard. And when I moved here, there was a place called Grooveyard. I was like, what? What's that?
Well, that goes back to what I was saying earlier, is that like I heard there's a place called Grooveyard, but I've never seen it. It does exist, though.
No, it closed. The guys who had that, I believe, moved on and are doing Pitchfork Social on Bullock Lake Farm there.
Oh, okay. Yeah, Again, I haven't been there, but I know of it. It sounds awesome.
It is supposed to be. I've never been to a show there. Usually my wife wants to go, so I stay home to take care of the kids.
Right.
It's supposed to be amazing.
So you had a club in Taiwan, or was it Taiwan?
Yeah, Taiwan, yeah.
And with a partner, and you did that for a couple of years?
That was, we had that club for 4 years.
4 years, that's a good run.
And then basically at the same time, we were playing gigs on a regular basis. We were open from Wednesday through Sunday.
Right.
It was Saturday, sometimes open on Sundays. And we toured around Taiwan with the other band the other band we were in. The jazz band was called Around Midnight. Okay. And then the big band was called the Money Shot Horns.
Oh, big band.
Yeah. A big funk band, 8-piece.
That blows my mind. Yeah. Like, I have a hard time. I've never got past the rock ensemble, and I find it really hard. A 3-piece, really hard.
Well,
I can't imagine getting that many personalities. Jazz guys must be like more level-headed or something.
No, not really. That band was more funk. These guys didn't play
funk, right?
Yeah. So, and I don't think it matters what style of music you're playing. The more people you add, the harder it gets.
Yeah.
We started off as a 10-piece and then ended up being an 8-piece.
So let's talk about that. I find that interesting because it's so, my ignorance is, I've never been in that world. I don't know how that would work. You have to have a clear leadership, I guess.
Yeah.
You have. So does that tend to be, how does that happen? Is it usually the guy on the keys, or is it just whoever?
Dictatorship.
Right. Is it whoever just stands up to the plate? Steps up to the plate, I should say.
Well, there has to be consensus there, right? So, and that can be awkward sometimes too, because everybody has ideas. And with the band like Money Shot, it was 10 really talented individuals. Right. So they all have their own ideas about how things should be approached. And basically, I'd been managing that as owner and manager of Grooveyard with my partner Roger. We put the band Money Shot together. Cool. It started out as an idea. This guy Kevy Lee, alto player, we all sort of had this idea, and he had this idea to put together a Taichung super band, and that ended up being it. And because I managed the club and I did all the accounts and all the booking and stuff, it sort of was a good fit for all of them for me to sort of slip into management.
Yeah, okay.
And I did. So I band managed and I kind of band led, but I deferred a lot to the vocalist. My thing is, if you're on stage and you got a vocalist,
right,
they call the shots. They might need guidance, but
that's fair.
If they want to make a tune change, like on the set list or whatever, it's up to the vocalist, not the manager who's in the horn section. Wait a minute, that's not on the set. No, you can't do that.
Well, sometimes to lead is to follow.
Yeah, exactly.
So that stage of your life was music. Running a jazz club, 2 bands. Wow, and touring somehow a little bit anyway.
Around Taiwan a lot, actually. Yeah, so
cool.
It made it convenient there because they built a high-speed rail system. And so you could, there were times where we'd gig in Taipei, get the high-speed up, and then high-speed back gig in Taichung, and then I'd go do a jazz gig in Kaohsiung later on. So from Taichung to Taipei, an hour and 15 on the high-speed gig, down, gig again, down, and then back up.
So where did you get your 10,000 hours? When I say that, like, where did your formative years, your practicing time, like as a younger dude?
Okay,
like,
so
did it start with the saxophone?
No. Started in choir as a kid.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and I was musical in the sense that it was around us in the house. My dad's a classical piano player. There was always music on or being played.
Right.
I never played until, I sang in choir, but that was a requirement at school. I liked it, but I never pursued it.
Okay.
And then it wasn't until I was in later life that I started playing seriously.
That surprises me. When did you pick up
26, 27?
Really?
Yep.
That really surprises me. I wouldn't have guessed
surprised
that.
a lot of people.
Yeah. But you hear that.
Yeah.
You know, it's not.
Yeah.
It's never too late.
No,
to,
it's never too late, and really, it really isn't ever
Yeah.
too late. So.
Wow, 26.
Yeah.
Huh, that is. You don't play like that. It really comes from the center of you. You're in demand here on Saltspring. Anyone who's in a band, you know that, wants Patrick to play with them. And I talk to them, and I know Patrick won't play with them. Maybe you have once, and he did once for a show or something, and then you hear the story, you were like on the bar walking or something like that. I don't know if that's true, but it
well, where did that one come from? Did I tell you that, or did you hear that through the grapevine? Holy smokes, eh? The old grapevine. Yeah, it did happen, actually.
You did? Okay.
Yeah.
And then, but you never played with them again?
I played a couple. I sat in a couple of times with them. It was Soul Shakedown, actually.
So at this stage of your life, you'll sit in, but you're not going to commit to a band.
I believe if you're going to commit, you commit, and you give it 150%. So
cool.
And those guys are awesome. I loved playing with them, but I knew that I couldn't give the kind of dedication to them that would have been what I expect from myself. So I was honest. I was like, "Oh, that's awesome. Thanks for asking, but I don't have the
of course,
I don't have the time right now." So
you're a family guy.
Yeah, there's that. And, you know, trying to make your way on Saltspring early on. You know, I didn't really know what was what. You know.
Yeah, God, we talked about Saltspring. But Taiwan's more interesting. What year was that?
Went there in 2001. And,
okay.
Came back here, arrived on Saltspring December 23rd, 2012.
Oh, straight from there.
Yeah, basically, I went stop off in Vancouver. My parents lived in Poco. So
said hi and then came to Saltspring.
Yeah, basically, I arrived on the 19th from Taiwan.
Okay.
Yeah. Came here, and wow, what a shift. From 24 hours a day in Taiwan, you know, walk into your local convenience store, pick up a brewski and a sandwich any time of day.
Yeah.
And walk around town, go to a club at 4 a.m, whatever. It's everything.
Yeah, to
you know, Saltspring. Beautiful,
shock.
Really beautiful, obviously.
Yeah, we all love Saltspring, of course.
But it was quiet, and really it was our transition, the first year.
Now, I assume your wife is from here or has roots here?
Yeah, her dad has lived here like 22 years or something.
Okay, so that was your tie.
Yeah, that's when we came. He suggested we move here, actually. So.
Good suggestion. Young family. Makes sense.
Yeah, so...
Huh. Yeah, you must have felt like a fish out of water from that. What you told me, that just painted that picture of Taiwan, and you don't have to paint the picture here in Saltspring, and I know it.
Yeah,
it's beautiful, like you said, but boy, you had to downshift a few gears.
Yes, I mean, there was so much opportunity for me in Asia playing.
Yeah,
not just in Taiwan, like playing in Hong Kong, Macau, Indonesia. Yeah. We got Money Shot got offered a contract at the MGM Grand in Macau. It didn't end up coming to fruition, unfortunately, because some of the chaps in the band weren't willing to make the move.
Right.
But yeah, to hear, and you hear a lot about Saltspring. It's a cultural hotbed, lots of music and stuff, and there are lots of amazing players for sure. But in terms of like a real gig scene, like a good, it's difficult.
I found the same. So Money Shot, is there like an album or?
Yeah, there's. It's our first album. Our only album, and it's probably still for sale on CD Baby. I haven't checked that for years, like since I came back.
I think it'll still be there, CD Baby. Probably, I don't think it's an annual thing. I think once it's there,
it's up there. I know the artwork's still up on it, and there's stuff on YouTube, like people filming videos at festivals and stuff.
Do you miss it?
Yeah, I did a lot more when I first moved here, and then I went back to Taiwan in 2014 for a visit and to start off my own saxophone business, actually.
Okay.
And it was kind of also a revisit to see how I felt about it still, and to kind of close chapters, to shut the book.
Maybe you had to do that. Yeah, because you remember a certain thing, and then you go back and say, "Well, that thing's done now."
Yeah. It was for me to have closure, actually, cool. and I got closure. Cool. I did set up my business and made some relationships with factories there.
Right.
And as I was doing that, the dollar started to slowly tank.
Okay.
And it just didn't become...
Wasn't worth it.
Yeah, it wasn't worth it because all the transactions are in U.S. funds, so the margins aren't as good anymore. So
it's right around that time that you became a fireman.
Pretty much, yeah. I came back from Taiwan, that visit 2014. I was on unemployment for that year. which I don't know how many people are out there who's listening, but that was an awesome year. All I did was practice and take care of kids.
Cool.
So I was home dad, and I just practice. It was amazing.
Right on.
And then, after that, I was trying to figure out what I was going to do. So I went over to Vancouver, did a whole bunch of courses for film to become a rigging grip. And every course I took, I got offered work. Like, hey, can you work tomorrow? And I was like,
Really?
no, I'm just doing the course. I'm going back to Saltspring.
Oh.
Well, call me. Here's my card. So loads of work.
I didn't know that.
And then that took me up to December. I took all my, there was a series of about 8 courses. And then I saw the sign for the fire department asking for recruits. And I was like, yeah. One of my kids' classmates' parents is in the department. He's like, I said, hey, what's that about, He said, oh, are you going to do it? And I said, yeah, I think so. And so I put an application in, and I told myself, okay, if I get that, I'll put the film stuff aside. And if I don't, I'll go to Vancouver. And I got in. So I passed the physical. And
So you would have brought the family? That would have been kind of the end of Saltspring.
no, I would have commuted.
Okay.
And it would have been a really difficult choice,
Right. I've talked to people who did that in film.
Yeah.
Because it's so sporadic.
Yeah.
And yeah.
So, it would have meant not seeing the family very much, and that's not really what I'm into at all. I love being around. So, I mean, granted, in the fire department, I'm on page and I'm up and out a lot. I'm training a lot.
You were fighting the wildfires.
Yeah.
In Alberta?
No.
NBC.
In BC, yeah. Started off in Vanderhoof and then went up to Burns Lake. Mm-hmm. So, that was quite an experience.
I bet it was.
Yeah, so.
Bet it was.
Yeah.
Scary.
Yeah, it is. It's amazing how, well, you look at California, right?
On fire right now. I don't know if it is right now, but it was last week.
Yeah, just how fast things happen and how devastating it can be. Like, you really, I think people don't realize how volatile and how quickly things can happen and change, so. But it's pretty cool going up there in the sense that, not the fires themselves are devastating, but the way that people treat you when you come into the community to help, like really just so appreciative and open and warm. And
it's amazing how tragedies like that really bring people together. For
totally.
Sure.
So got in. That was 2016 was my recruit year, and I'm still in and I love it. It's really it.
I could tell. Is that your?
It is actually
alarm. You got a fire?
I gotta go because there's a very I'm urgently needed. So
that's the coolest way to end the podcast.
I hate to end because I was enjoying that so much.
Patrick Byrne, that was awesome.
Thank you very much, Scott, and I hope I can come back and finish off.
All right, thanks, man. All right, folks, that's it. That was the conversation with Patrick. I had an awesome time when he was here. I had fun jamming with him. It was cool learning about him some more because I don't know him well. I know him a little bit better now. And in a couple of days, I get to have a conversation with David Latinga. We're going to talk music. I have a feeling it'll be a very different conversation, but we'll just see what happens, man. We're going to just let it happen. This has been Scott's Boring Life Podcast 7. I hope I see you for the next one.